So today we're going to do a quick video one in a series, probably a 3-video series on ball sizes, patching material, and lube. So video one, this video is going to be on ball sizes and patching. Video 2 will be on lubes, situational lubes. So hunting in the winter, 30 below versus shooting on the range, 70 degrees. That's different considerations as far as lubes go. And then those two parts will be theory here in the shop, and then video 3 will be done on the range. And we'll take what we talked about and take a really good patch ball combination, shoot it out to 75 or 100 yards, get our group, and then dial back the ball size and see what happens. Dial back the patch size, come back from 0.020, 0.022 patching, and using everything else the same, go into 0.015 patching or 0.010 patching, which a lot of people start out using when they first get into black powder, and see what happens. So if you're shooting a 50 caliber, you want to be 1/1000th smaller than bore size or larger. So 50 cal, start out with 0.490 balls, and also try 0.495 balls. So that's basically your two. 36 caliber, 0.350 balls instead of 0.360, which is what your bore diameter is. 0.350 and 0.395. What is it? 350 and 355, right? That's a lot of numbers for a country boy. So that's basically it in a nutshell with balls. If you use cast balls, you have a sprue, you want to have those, when you're loading, you want to have that sprue standing straight up. If it's off to the side, not only is it going to load funny because you've got a little sprue, a little, perfectly round ball with a little thing coming out, flat, a little rise out from the mold. It's going to be hard to load, so put the sprue up. And but if you're using swage balls that are perfectly round, you don't have to worry about that. So that's your balls. 490, 495 for a 50, 58 caliber, 0.570, 0.575. So just stay in that parameter for your balls. There's no hard and fast rules. People do things differently. Somebody's going to comment, well, I use, 2,000 smaller. Use what you want. This is how I do it, and I think this is a good starting point for new guys getting into this. So 40 caliber, 390 balls or 395. So simple. All right, so there's your balls. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You need to be undersized because you have to patch it. A 490 ball and a 50 caliber will rattle down the barrel when you drop it in. It's pretty significantly smaller, excuse me, than a bore size ball, but that's what you want. Patching material. The number one thing is that it's all natural material. So you need something like pillow ticking material. Now, if you go to the Track of the Wolf and look through their list of ball patches, you're going to find typically something like that, and that is this pillow ticking material, pre-cut, and it'll come in 40 to 50, 50 to 60 or whatever, and you can buy the appropriate size. Now I will show you, we'll get on this real quick, I will show you a little trick that I use and how you can make your own patches, because these are typically a little small to my liking. So I'll buy a larger size, but I'll show you what I do real quick if you want to cut your own. So you can get a cutter like that. It's just a punch cutter. So get it nice and sharp, lay out your yard of material, pop, 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 and cut out exactly this. So if you want to buy it by the yard, you can buy a punch. Another thing that you can do is get a hole saw. Now, obviously, you're not going to want one that big, but for demonstration purposes, get a hole saw. Take this hole saw, take the guide drill out, the guide bit out, grind off the teeth on this. So just grind it flat on a grinder or with a file, grind it off. And then once you have that flat, then take your file and run it at an angle and sharpen that up. And basically what you're going to have is a powered version of this. So once you get that flat and ground sharp, then that'll cut right through that material, and it's a nice way to go. Now, how I like to decide my patching size, and we'll just do this real quick because this is just kind of an aside. So I grabbed my Allen Martin 58 caliber rifle. And so what I'm going to do is, in its cone, so I don't need a starter here, but I'm going to take this material, put it over there, put the ball in, thumb start it, and I'm going to take a Sharpie. And I'm going to go, you can see that ball tucked in the muzzle. So I'm going to take my Sharpie, pull this patching material down, and I'm going to just draw around. So we've got that marked in there, and you can see that Sharpie mark around. Go ahead and pull that combination out of there. Put the ball down, and this is what you've ended up with. So you can see that you can kind of use your little neatest, roundest spots on that and get you a measurement of what you're looking for about patch diameters. And you can translate that to a hole saw or get the appropriate size, order the appropriate size punch. So that's how I do it. Real easy. Start it, and you can use a short starter if it's not cone. Just use the short leg of the short starter, get it down in there, mark around, pop it right out of there, and get you a measurement on that. So that aside, we're going to talk about materials. Natural only. If you've got some material that seems thick enough, you get your micrometer here, zero it out, and you can get these from, you know, anywhere. They're cheap. I mean, this isn't a cheap set because I use this for some of my bench work, but you can get them for 20 bucks. Not a big investment. So this material right here, 0.018 thick. You can also use denim, right? Jean material. So we can look at that and pinch those tines together a bit, and that is 0.24 thick. So I usually use denim between, well, I usually like my denim about 0.022, because about the thickest pillow ticking that you can get is 0.020. So my next step up is going to be denim 0.022 thick. Now the nice thing about this denim, super tough, and you can use your old jeans. So try to use, like if you got an old pair of wore out jeans that are starting to come apart, cut out the back of the leg, someplace that doesn't have a lot of wear, so you're not dealing with differences in thickness. You know, if you got like your knees, you know, that may thin up to 0.015, and you know, then you're dealing with something like this muslin material, 0.015 or 0.010 thick, and you don't need that kind of variation. So cut out the back of the legs, and that'll give you some nice tough denim. So if you got some material around the house and you're not sure about it, the main thing is that it's got a man-made component to it. So you don't need any polyester or anything weird like that. So you find some, take a lighter or a match, hold it up to it. If it scorches, it's natural. If it starts to want to drip globs of blue goop, you know, on the floor, then obviously you don't want that, because you don't want that in your rifling. So patch material comes from 0.010, like that muslin material, which is going to blow out unless you are using the smallest possible bore diameter and the smallest possible charge. So that muslin material may work just fine for a 32 caliber squirrel rifle that all your squirrels are within 20 yards, and so you're using an 18 grain charge, you know, not to blow the squirrel to pieces. You're using a little tiny charge, and that may hold up. I don't know, I've never tried it, but it may hold up. But if you're using a hunting load in a 58 that's 90 or 100 grains, it's not going to hold up. It's going to blow. Every shot is going to blow through, and it's almost like you don't have, it's actually worse than not having a patch at all, because you're blowing through on one side instead of all around the circumference of that ball as it's coming out, and that gas is passing the ball. So if it's patched with thin material and it blows out one side, and you know, you don't want it. So 0.015 is about the minimum I would consider with 40 calibers, 36 calibers, 45 calibers, but my suggestion is that you go with a 0.018 patching material like this, thicker ball. Once you got a patching material like this, say 0.018 or 0.020, the one thing you know you're not going to get most of the time is a failure of the patch. Super thick, super tough. So if like you've got a 50 caliber 0.495 ball, if that's too tight a combination for you, you can't use your range rod with it. Now this is all lubes. Lubes are going to make a big difference on that, but just setting that aside, that's when you would go and try your 0.490 ball for your 50, right? Instead of your 0.495. Try a little smaller ball. Keep your patching material thick, a little smaller ball. So as small as 0.018, as thick as 0.022, somewhere in there with the appropriate size ball is going to be your magic space. Now, one thing we do need to talk about is rifling in conjunction with this, because if you have thin rifling, so you look at your rifling and the lands and grooves, there's very little difference between the two, then you can get away with 0.018, 0.015 maybe patching, because that's going to fill those grooves and you're going to seal your charge. When it fires, it's going to come out sealed and your patches are not going to blow out. If you've got a thicker, and that's where the thickness of the patch material really comes into play, is if you've got deeper grooves, then you need a thicker material to fill that, right? So 0.010 is not going to fill deep grooves. It's going to just go around the ball and you're going to have little triangle gaps at the corner. And so you're not going to get sealed. If you have round bottom rifling, like Coleraine barrels, so each of the grooves are actually half circles almost. So it's super deep. You're going to want something like this, or you're going to want 0.020 pillow ticking at the minimum. And that's a little trickier, those round bottom rifling, to get it to seal correctly, just because they're deeper. And so the magic answer to that is thicker material. So that's it. All natural, thicker the better. If you're just shooting 25 yards and you're shooting at milk jugs at 25 yards, then thinner patch material lubed up correctly will work for that. But we're talking about super accurate. We're talking about dialing in our accuracy for hunting or for competition shooting. So competition shooters, national championship shooters that shoot at the Friendship Fall Shoot and all of that stuff, you can get on muzzleloading.com, really get on American Long Rifles, because that's where a lot of those guys are, AmericanLongRifles.com, and read some threads in there and read what those competition shooters, bench shooters, and you know, the highly skilled shooters they use. They use larger balls, they use patching material that's thicker than you would think that you could possibly use. And that's when good form on your ramrod comes in. You know, you're not reaching way up here with that wood rod bending to put in. You're hand over hand, staying within a foot of the muzzle, pushing that down, pushing it down, pushing it down. The tighter the patch ball combination, the better your accuracy. All of that boiled down to that. Next video, we're going to talk about lubes and which application you should use which lube with. So we'll talk about that next time. See ya. Thanks, guys.